Hi Joggies, welcome to another episode of Study with Mr. K. Today we'll be doing on climate topic 3, the last of climate topic and perhaps the last of your GE revision, right? For the core jogs, 2 more clusters to go. Okay, for climate topic 3, we are talking about sustainable development yet again. Okay, just like tourism. Sustainable development is very important, and there will be a few things that I will go through. Okay, and first of all, we talk about the different types of uh, climate actions, okay, such as mitigation and adaptation. So you need to understand that mitigation and adaptation strategies are very important. You need to know all mitigation strategies and all adaptation strategies. So what's the difference between mitigate and adaptation? Okay, mitigation in climate cluster, it means to reduce greenhouse gases. So maybe just let me write it down. Mitigation strategies versus adaptation strategies. Okay, mitigation refers to reduce okay, greenhouse gases, and also at the same time greenhouse gas emissions, okay, and also at the same time we are enhancing, okay, carbon sinks, okay, to slow down climate change, right? As for adaptation strategies, it is basically an adjustment to climate change and its effect in order to reduce harm to people. So we are talking about some form of adjustment in terms of adaptation because we are adapting to climate change, right? So we all know that these are all called climate actions, and these climate actions actually it is to build community resilience in and achieve sustainable development. So community resilience will always be one of the main strategies in combating in achieving sustainable development. So when implemented well, these strategies when implemented well, there will be community resilience, okay, and there will always be a need to make sure that community resilience is being achieved, okay, through these strategies. And both the mitigation and adaptation strategies, they are actually all complementary. Remember this, okay? This is a key word. They are both complementary to each other. So countries should implement both strategies. One is to slow down, one is to make sure to put in place measures, right? So you need to understand mitigation is to really slow down, try to prevent the impacts from worsening, right? And adaptation is really to put in place measures to minimize the harm that has already been caused or will be happening in near future. So every country will advocate for both strategies to be used most of the time, and it can create risk and benefits. Okay, it can create risk and benefits. All right. So climate change, basically, if you were to look at it on a different perspective, climate change is actually a threat multiplier. What do I mean by that? What is a threat multiplier? A threat multiplier means it actually worsens the threats to natural and human systems that might be caused by other reasons, right? So like for example, coral bleaching is not just because of climate change. Okay, coral bleaching is happening because there is ocean pollution, but climate change actually multiply the threat towards coral bleaching, and it actually worsen coral bleaching. So there is a threat multiplying effect of climate change, right? And climate change has also reduced or constrained development path as well. So you can see why certain countries remain poor, because they constrain development path, they limit the ability, they limit the ability of current and future generation to meet their needs. They also erode the development gains by countries, such as poverty reduction. So some countries have actually moved on, to really develop, but because of climate change, they have to go they have went on 3 steps further, but now because of climate change they have to go back 4 steps, back to square one, -1 even, right? So that is that. And last but not least, you need to understand that climate change can also have variation in impacts. Okay, what do I mean? Developed versus developing countries. Okay, there is always an impact. Most of the time in the developing countries, they will be impacted most. Okay, this is the enduring understanding that everyone needs to know. Okay, that's why that is also the reason why they have to adopt different strategies. A developed and an undeveloped country will adopt different kind of strategies. That is usually your 9 marks question should arrive at, the conclusion, right? So that is for topic 3.1. For topic 3.2, we talk about climate risk. Climate risk, quite a number of risks that we will be talking about, and the climate risk is actually happening here. We're actually talking about the impacts again. Climate risk. And this is on 3.2, right? For climate risk, it is important to note that there are 3 things. It is a product of the nature of the hazard multiplied by how much exposure multiplied by how much vulnerability a place can be. This is an equation, right? And please go and read up on what are some climate related hazards, what's the vulnerability and exposure, right? So you can see that the nature of the climate related hazard, we are talking about short term versus long term. Shorter term, such as cyclones and floods, they can cause immediate climate risk. So these are actually impacted. Who are the ones that is being impacted in these short-term events? They are the ones that are usually they experience hazards, right? Next, we talk about the vulnerable conditions. Okay, the vulnerable condition talks about usually the who are the vulnerables. It is the developing countries who are more vulnerable because they have poverty. More poverty, okay, um, and it can cause even more poverty, right? And there is also pipe water, access to pipe water. Okay, extreme weather will result in contamination, so that they will increase the vulnerability of certain people, okay, in certain countries. And last but not least is exposure. Exposure is very specific. It talks about proximity to coastal environment. Okay, the nearer you are to coastal environment, the more you will be exposed. Next, proximity to dry environment. The nearer you are to dry environment, you're more likely to be exposed to droughts. That is 3.2, right? So for 3.2, you need to understand that these formula usually you can actually calculate for both developed and developing countries how much they are exposed, what are their vulnerabilities, and what's the nature of hazards that they are being exposed to, right? So for 3.3, we're going to go straight into the different strategies already. Okay, the different strategies are pretty simple. All right, I'm gonna just put it here. Okay, okay, maybe not. Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna just continue from here. So what are the different mitigation strategies and what are different adaptation strategies? We need to know this, okay, by heart. You need to know what are the strategies, how it works, who are involved, and more importantly, what are their limitations. Okay, so first of all, international agreements and corporations, right? So that is the first for mitigation strategies, and this is on a global scale, international scale. So how does it work? Okay, you can look at how it works. A few things. Firstly, it puts responsibilities on developed countries. Okay, funds and technologies are directed to them, to developing countries, and there is a monitoring of progress of climate change policies, right? So this is how they work. Okay, so there is A, B, and C. Okay, make sure you know the responsibilities on developed countries. Okay, who will benefit the most? Benefit the most funds and technology will be channeled to developing so as to help them, right? And at the same time, there is monitoring as well. Okay, and however, this is limited. Limited in what sense? It is limited in that it is dependent on the commitment of countries. Basically, nobody in the UN is able to put a gun at your face and tell you, hey, stop producing carbon dioxide, full stop. It does not work that way. It is purely voluntary, and you can actually withdraw from it. In fact, USA, the biggest production of carbon dioxide, actually withdrew. Donald Trump withdrew in 2017, right? So there is no, institutionally it is flawed. Institutionally it is flawed, you can say that. And most of these things are not legally binding. Okay, there's no legal binding. Oh, if you don't do this, you'll go to jail. Okay, just like you go to jail, bad boy. No, it doesn't happen that way. So yeah, that is the limitation of this strategy. Okay, the next strategy, let's talk about the use of low carbon, no, not low carb, low carbon tech. Okay, low carbon tech, they are good, right? What kind of technology are we talking about? We are talking about carbon captures. We are talking about utilization and storages as well. So basically, these low carbon technologies, they actually make sure, okay, that carbons are being captured nicely, so it will not be released to the atmosphere, which is good, right? However, what is the limitation? Okay, it is really that they are very expensive. So who can actually build this, right? It is very expensive, and technologically there might be leakage. Okay, there are still worries about leakages. So expensive and leakage, this how much we have progressed so far. Okay, that's for low carbon tech. Okay, next we look at the use of clean energy. Sorry. Alamak. Don't know what's happening. Oh no. Okay, they lose. Okay, use of clean energy, right? Clean energy. We have been talking about this wind energy, not fire energy, wind energy, solar energy, hydropower, nuclear, blah blah blah. All these are good. Okay, they are super good. But what's the limitation? Economically, they are expensive. Right? So developing countries can't use it again. Right? Nuclear is dangerous. Geothermal, not everywhere has geothermal. Singapore, where's our geothermal? Sembawang Hot Spring. You think that can power the whole country? I don't think so. Right, so some of these energies are place specific. For example, Singapore, what can we generate the most? Solar energy. Okay, hydroelectric, we don't really have that kind of speed of water to generate enough hydroelectricity, so it is difficult. Alright, so the use of clean energy is really place specific. While it is good, renewable, but not everyone can use it, and it is expensive. Right, solar panels are expensive. Next, we talk about change in consumption pattern. This consumption pattern, changes in consumption pattern. So we are talking about food choices, right? Food choices. We're talking about food waste. We're talking about the use of plastics, right? And these are all very good consumption patterns that can be changed. Okay, and we're talking about fashion as well right now. Okay, fast fashion is the worst thing that ever happened, right? Shein, Taobao, whichever. That means we are wasting so much resources on this kind of fast fashion. Things are changing so fast. Pia, pia, pia. One day you are wearing this, one day they are wearing this. So it's like consumption of people has changed so much so that it has increased tremendously our carbon footprint. Alright, our carbon footprint has changed tremendously, and that is difficult. That is very difficult to change. Okay, consumption pattern is actually the cheapest but the most difficult to change. So the limitations would then be that it takes a long time to change someone's habit. If I'm someone who doesn't eat veggie, you can't tell a person who don't eat veggie to suddenly eat veggie after one day. No way they're going to change. You can't ask someone who doesn't exercise to exercise every day. It does not work that way. It takes time. It takes time to change people's mindset and consumption pattern. Alright? And it also takes stakeholders to change as well. If Taobao, Shopee, Shein, even Zara fashion, if they are able to change how fast fashions are being made, then if this will work. But will they change? Will they prioritize climate change? Do they give a who about climate change? I really do not know, right? Yeah, some of them may go, oh, I'm going green, I'm not having plastic bags in my retail shops anymore. But so what? Those does not decrease carbon footprint. Consumption patterns decrease carbon footprint to a big extent. Right? So just imagine, if everyone on earth just have 5 pieces of clothes, that's all, full stop. That will change a lot. That will really, really change a lot. Okay? So, yes. Right. So, that is all these strategies, okay, they are all aimed to really reduce greenhouse gases. Okay? But for mitigation strategies, there is another portion, okay, whereby this portion they are looking at enhancing carbon sinks. Okay, enhancing carbon sinks. Okay, what are these? Alright, that means there is a reduction. Okay, another strategy is reducing deforestation. It's very straightforward. Okay, yeah, that's first. Next is about restoring our mangrove. So these are very soft strategies, and both of these can actually increase our carbon sink. Okay, and this is actually under land use, managing our land use. Okay, so managing our land use. Another thing is also at the same time, okay, what are the limitations of this? The limitation is that this takes time. It takes time, and it takes effort. Okay, it takes effort because it is very difficult to convince. It is very difficult to convince growing cities to say stop growing. Right? It's difficult. Okay, and next we need to look at the protection of forests through what? Through forest regeneration. This is all good, huh? Reduce, restore, and protect. This is all good, right? And we talk about afforestation. Afforestation, that means you plant trees in new areas that does not have trees, right? You reforest. There is afforestation, and plus, okay, not and plus. Okay, why is there something here? Okay, afforestation plus what is this called? Reforestation, right? So when you reforest and afforest, doesn't matter. You increase the amount of trees, right? You protect trees as well at the same time. But limitation, basically, there's always competition. Okay, the limitation is that there will always be competition for land use. There will always be competition for land use. Basically, and also the technology. It takes very, very long time, okay, to protect our forests. To replant our forests, right? So this is a plus, and this is actually to increase carbon sink. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Right, these are the 6 factors under mitigation strategies. Okay, and that is actually mitigation strategies is 3.3. Okay, let us go on to adaptation strategies, which is 3.4. Okay, for adaptation strategies, they are quite straightforward. Okay, first of all, they are structural adaptations. Okay, first, they are structural. Okay, like I mentioned to you just now, okay, it is to adjust, right? So structurally, it can be adjusted. Things can be adjusted to combat the sea level rises, so on and so forth. There can be seawall, right? There can be polder. Okay, there can be water storage tanks. This is all to combat the flooding, sea level rise. Okay, Singapore has been using it. East Coast, there are sea walls. They are building another bay. Okay, for polder, Singapore is also using it. Netherlands is using it as well. So, and last but not least, water storage. We do have that. The Stamford detention tank in Singapore, it allows excess water to flow in. Okay, all this is good, but limited. There will always be a limitation. Firstly, expensive and it's costly to build. Only countries like Singapore can do this. Okay, they need to be maintained regularly. Our barrage is maintained regularly, and millions of dollars are used to just for maintenance. And socially, okay, sometimes when you build seawalls and polders or even build things structurally, you may have to, okay, socially you may have to evict people. Okay, this is dependent on whether there are people living in a certain area. Okay, so you may have to evict people. Second, let's now look into another strategy. Okay, secondly, we are talking about technological approaches. Okay, technology is our saving grace, right? A lot of people have been using that, has been saying that there can be high-tech farm, there can be high-tech egg farm. Oh, sorry, this is veggie farm. Veggie, high-tech fish, everything can be high-tech basically. Okay, and this is for food security. And in Singapore, please remember, Singapore 30 by 30. What is 30 by 30? Okay, 30 by 30 means 30% of residents needs by 2030, not any other things. Okay, because 90% of our food is imported. We want to decrease our dependency on imported food and increase local production, right? So this is to increase our food security. However, what is the limitation? Again, expensive. High-tech, everything high-tech is expensive. It is expensive and it's costly, right? And 40 million just to fund 9 high-tech farms. 40 million. We import, do we need to use 40 million? Not really. But it's really for a long-term benefit, right? Yep. Next, we talk about social approaches. Okay? Social approaches to adjust. What are some of the social approaches that we have to really adjust? It is about awareness. It's about education. Okay. Socially limited. Yes. Difficult. People difficult to change. They are hard to change. Mindset. Okay, it's always very difficult. This is the easiest, the cheapest, but it's the hardest to do. Okay, hardest to change behavior, hardest to adapt, right? So yeah. Fourth, okay, it is about institutional approaches. What is institutional? Institutional, we are talking about national policies. We are talking about regional policy. Regional, okay, is like your ASEAN policies. Okay, internally, national policies, Singapore, what has been done? We created MESE, which is the Ministry of Sustainability and Environment. We have the CCRs, which is the Center for Climate Research Singapore, to start researching, or rather to kickstart the research in climate change. Last but not least, the regional policies. We are looking at how we could really look into the ASEAN. How can we cooperate with each other, right? So all in all, is there limitation in this? Of course there is limitation, right? Limitation is there may be a competition between national priorities, okay, and sometimes it is countries may not have the capacity to draw on their national budget to finance any of this. So it really depends on what kind of countries are we talking about, right? So this is this, okay? So mitigation adaptation strategies can be very important 9 marks question. You need to know all the examples you need to know, okay, especially for the GE students, right? So that is all for this chapter, okay? Many examples, very structured. Make sure you know your adaptation and mitigation strategies by heart. You know that out of everything, it is to build community resilience, and there will be trade-offs again. Yes, use the word trade-offs in your evaluation, people, okay? That's all from me. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next chapter for the rest.